Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. So as you guys know, if you watched this video, I was in desperate need of a new laptop for my upcoming deployment, and I finally settled on the new Dell XPS 15. So let's have a look. The Dell XPS 15 9560 is what I would call the perfect combo of a laptop. It combines the power of a productivity workstation laptop with a dedicated graphics card so it can also do some gaming, my kind of laptop for sure. Now the normal price of the Dell XPS 15 is $1,900, and at that price I honestly wasn't even considering it. However, I basically stole this laptop from an open box deal at Micro Center that dropped the price all the way down to $1,350, which was absolutely insane, so I had to buy it. So now that we know the price, let's jump into the specs real quick. The XPS 15 9560 that I have here is rocking an i7 7700 Kaby Lake processor clocked at 2.8 GHz that turbos up to 3.8, 16 GB of DDR4 2400 MHz RAM, a dedicated GTX 1050, more on that later, actually much more on that later, and a 512 GB PCIe SSD. The specs of the display are where things get really interesting, however. This 15.6-inch Infinity Edge display is rocking a 4K resolution at 60 Hz, covers 98% of the RGB scale, and basically looks about as beautiful as it gets. Moving on to a quick physical tour, you can already see how thin and portable it is, as it's only 17mm thick at its peak. The tiny 5.7mm bezels don't waste any space, and it comes in at just 4 pounds. On the top is a silver aluminum finish, which I'm personally not a huge fan of. I wish there were more colors. On the bottom are some rubber feet to give it elevation for cooling and a very long vent. Now online I read some reviews saying that this vent is super sharp and you shouldn't even put it on your lap because it could cut you. Yeah, that's obviously not the case. On the bottom, you'll also find a magnetic XPS door that reveals your serial number, and the downward-facing speakers, which honestly don't sound that great. You're gonna want a headset. Moving to the keyboard deck, you'll find that it's made of a carbon fiber material, which is honestly pretty baller, and I'm definitely a fan of. You have a number pad-less keyboard, which I'm also a fan of, and a touchpad that uses Windows Precision drivers, which might possibly be the best trackpad except for on MacBooks. The keyboard is illuminated with white LEDs that cannot be changed, and I honestly really like the style of the keys Dell chose. Finally, below the screen and to the left is the webcam, which actually doesn't look that bad. It's definitely at a weird angle because you can see straight up my nose, but the quality is definitely good enough for something like a Skype call or a business call. But if you want to stream on Twitch or something like that, you're probably going to want to pick up something like the Logitech C922, which I fully reviewed by the way. And to wrap up the physical tour, we gotta talk I/O, which is actually very important considering some of the poor choices from some newer laptops lately. On the left hand side is Dell's proprietary power port, a USB Type-A, HDMI, USB Type-C Thunderbolt with only 2 PCIe lanes, and a combo audio jack. On the right side is a Kensington lock, a battery level indicator, which I'm in love with and go crazy about even though it's not that big of a deal, another USB Type-A port, and an SD card slot. Now I don't know what you guys think, but I honestly think that the I/O is pretty much perfect. I do wish that the Thunderbolt came with 4 lanes, but honestly it's not that big of a deal. Who really uses an external GPU? Alright, so moving on, we gotta test out gaming with the GTX 1050, and although most gaming laptops do have at least a GTX 1060 in there these days, I'll explain after the benchmarks a bit more about this. The first game I fired up was PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, because as you know, every benchmarking video better include this game. In 1080p and very low settings, I averaged 55 FPS, which was definitely smooth. Look how the minimum FPS only ever dropped down to 46. You can definitely crank up the settings to low if you wanted to, but as you can see here, the game doesn't look that bad, and for a game like this, I much rather have the consistent frame rates. Next up, I fired CSGO, and in 1080p with high settings and no anti-aliasing, I averaged an impressive 129 FPS and only dropped down to 79. Now I actually did try running this game in 4K because that was the default settings. It actually ran decently well, but in CSGO, I would much rather have the consistent FPS and never go below 60. Not like it matters, I still suck at this game. And finally, the last game I benchmarked was GTA 5, which actually surprised me. In 1080p and high settings, I averaged 77 FPS, and as you can see here, the graphics actually looked pretty impressive. Now I know that GTA 5 is a CPU intensive game, and we have pretty much the best CPU in a consumer laptop, but still, this looked very nice and it was a fun gaming experience. Now with all that out of the way, let's talk about why I chose the Dell XPS 15, especially being a gamer with only a GTX 1050 in it. Now honestly, I was thinking about buying something with the GTX 1060 in it, like the Razer Blade or the MSI Stealth Pro, but honestly, it was the 4K screen that did it for me. Editing videos on a 4K screen far outsurpasses a couple extra FPS in gaming. I'll be able to play any game on that laptop on this deployment, but more importantly, I'll be able to edit videos much easier with a 4K screen. At the $1,350 I spent on the XPS 15, it's an absolute steal, and you just won't find any other value out there as good as this. However, if you're only available to purchase it at MSRP of $1,900, then you'll definitely want to weigh your options. This steep price tag has it competing with high-end, better gaming laptops like the MSI Stealth Pro and Razer Blade, but if you're into productivity or content creation, then maybe that 4K screen will be worth it to you like it is to me. Overall, the Dell XPS 15 is definitely a beast of a laptop, especially with the premium build quality, the portability, and the very capable ability to play any game you throw at it, even though it's just a GTX 1050. One last thing to mention about gaming is that the fans do get a tad bit loud for my taste when really pushing the laptop, but I did really enjoy how it doesn't get that hot. The laptop does a great job of distributing heat, so even when I've been gaming for hours, there still isn't one specific spot that's super hot or anything. Well, that wraps up my review of the Dell XPS 15. This laptop is going to be my single computer for the length of my deployment, so I'll definitely give a follow-up review when I get home. Be on the lookout for that. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please drop a like down below to help support my channel, and as always, thank you for watching. And please subscribe for more Zach's Tech Turf videos.